what brain do you have? Are you an English person or a math person? Right brain or left brain? That was something that was asked of me throughout all my years as a student. That was something that most of my friends could answer very quickly. Oh, I love math. I'm a math person. I love English. I love writing. I love music. I'm definitely a right brain. Now, that question had a different answer depending on who asked me, depending on when they asked, where they asked, or my mood that day. If I had just come from a math class, I might have said I'm a left brain. If I had just finished a piano lesson, it would have been I'm a right brain. That question was never answered the same. Now, growing up, I felt that that meant that I was the weird one, that something was wrong with me, that because I wasn't in a box, because I wasn't a left brain or a right brain, that I didn't know what I wanted to do. Now, here is my journey of how I figured that out. I want to start with a little bit of emphasis on the education side. Most of us know that there is a current emphasis in STEM. But what a lot of us may not know is that has been an emphasis since the 1800s. About in the 1860s, actually. In the 1860s, we were getting bigger as a country and we needed to expand. Meaning, we needed to have places of education that would be focused on different needs. At the time, those were mostly agricultural. So the colleges started emphasizing agriculture. Now we move in history, into World War II and the space race. We now notice that there is more of a need for technological advancements, engineering, different things out of those vein. Now, personally, my STEM education was the most formal out of my education because it was an emphasis in the classroom, not only in the 1860s, but then re-pushed in the early thousands. Now, where this led me personally is growing up, not only would my mom advocate for me in a classroom setting, putting me in advanced placement opportunities for English, for math, or whatever subject she thought I needed advanced placement or gifted programs, but that also translated outside of the classroom. My car trips were not very fun, or what you traditionally think of as fun. It was, okay, on this trip you're going to learn your states and capitals. On this trip you're going to learn who the presidents and vice presidents were. On this trip we're going to do trivia. So my car trips, my outside of school time, was not just focused on fun. My mom was a big proponent of playing with a purpose. I learned STEM, math, problem solving through those out of the classroom experiences, not just in the classroom. Now, moving to the arts side, that has had a more recent trend in the educational environment. It was only in the mid-90s that a program or a foundation actually was created to enhance and aid arts in public education. We can even see some of the ramifications of that today. I'm not going to get into that too deeply, but we can definitely see that since STEM has had this rich history of educational involvement, it does have a much deeper foundation in education than the arts do. Now, the arts have been focused on since I was 3. Now, that didn't mean that it changed overnight in the education system, so my mother and father did their best to enhance and expand on that education as well. Growing up, one of the first things that I remember is being involved in my preschool choir at church. Not too long after that, my mom realized I was musically inclined, so I started taking piano lessons. My mother advocated for me to be involved in every musical opportunity at school, both inside of school and out. I was plugged into dance, theater, voice lessons, piano lessons, different lessons. I'm sure I'm missing somebody. I might have added one or two that weren't actually there because of how many different things I did. Because my mother knew how important the music side of education was. Not for potentially what I'd be doing in a career, but because of how that could enhance all of the other things that were in my brain. Now, if I wouldn't have gotten it in school, my mother ensured that I got it outside of school. Because we all know that in education, and going back into that educational setting, most of my in-class musical experiences were not necessarily built into my day. They were things that I had to be pulled out of other courses for. They were things that required time and effort away from what the school thought I should be doing at that point. Now, everything that I was doing in my educational experience was important. I am not here to talk about which one of these things I think should be the emphasis. Is one really more important than the other? They both are important in their own capacities. People who do music need the applications from STEM to enhance what they're doing. People in STEM also need those skills, those benefits, those opportunities that music allows. And they both need to be given in the school day. Now, STEM is used in the arts all over the place. In fashion industry is using technology to increase hype. People in fashion designers, or the industry itself has become more technological. Anybody that's watched any programming related to fashion in the last couple of years has noticed that they've started to make their own fabrics using technology. When we move into other aspects, music is increasingly being more digitized. Within the last year, information has come out with how Spotify was developed. There's a new documentary about that. Spotify uses technology to increase its range and its approachability to the masses by giving you things that you want to listen to, deciding what you might be interested next on based off of what you listened to previously. We are approaching more internet-based creators. We have electronic music becoming center stage. More and more work is done with the technological side that if students don't know how to use that, they're going to be at a disadvantage. Now, finally, in art. Art is one of the most recent immersions in technology because of AI. A lot of us became very excited around Christmas when for the first time we could take a few photos of ourselves and make imaginary versions of us, hundreds at a time, filling our heads with who we could be if we were an Egyptian princess or queen, or in a video game, allowing us to interact with our own image in a new and exciting way for the first time. Now, there does lead to problems, but it's going to be present whether we like it or not going forward. On top of that, we also have CGI in our movies. We have Photoshop and other different ways to enhance, change, or modify a photo that was not available even 100 years ago. So I feel like we can all see the tangible need for STEM in the arts. That is a push that I see in the classrooms even today. The problem is we get a little pushback when we want to go the opposite direction. Now, a lot of people, when we see, how arts are used in STEM, they're not. As an engineer, I'm using science and physics and math. I don't have to do any of this stuff. I'm never going to paint a picture. I'm never going to need to sing. Okay, you're right. But you do need to be able to do so many things that the arts can provide. like critical thinking and collaboration and problem-solving skills, being able to work through a problem. I will be very honest. Had I not had some of these strong skills, even just this week, my life would have been increasingly more difficult. The music education gave me the ability to duck and weave and modify, and the ability to problem solve through things that I previously may not have been able to do. Now, on top of that, it also boosts academic performance and the ability to get information into our brains. Music, art, or the arts in general allow us to use both sides of the brain all at once. In physical methods of art, we are physically moving both sides of our body, which activates both or the opposite side of the brain. When you're dealing with music, you are dealing with multiple languages. If you didn't think about it, music is a language. So you're dealing with the English that may be on the page if you're a singer, with the words or the music that's behind it, which requires another language to learn, and the math and science that requires you making sound. It's all included. On top of it, we have a decision to make. At this point, I've now given you all of the pros of why both are necessary. Both are needed. So let's talk about what happens if we just keep doing what we're doing. What we're doing is fine. We still have a great educational system in America. Whether you may agree with that fully or not, there's always things that we can change, modify, or shift to make things better. But where it states right now, we're pretty okay. But here is what's going to happen if we don't do these things. We get a chasm. I was given the opportunity to do everything that I told you at the beginning of my talk because my parents had the ability to provide those things for me. The problem is, just because I was given those things, because my parents were allowed to give those things to me, doesn't mean that the whole world has access to those things. We need to make sure that we give opportunities for all students to have access to this balance during the school day. Because as it stands right now, even though we may have programs after school, we can't guarantee that that kid does not have to go home to take care of a sibling, a sick family member. We don't know what's going on at home. I can't guarantee that after the last period of the day, that when that kid leaves, that they're able to do anything else. That's not something we can assume. It's a blessing that many of us assume, but it's not something that I can say that everyone has. So, in order to fix this problem, we need to find a way. I don't know how that is, I don't know what that's going to be, but we need to find a way to find a balance. So this is not me saying that we need 6 art classes to go along with 6 STEM classes. This is me saying we need to have and provide opportunities that every child can access these classes easily throughout their first 12 formal years of education. And that is a consistent focus, that they take arts coursework throughout their 12 years of education, not just once every few years and call it good. There needs to be some emphasis so that those kids that go home and don't have the opportunities like I did when I was growing up aren't left behind. Those of us that have these abilities, we're not going to be left behind. Our parents, those who love us, are going to make that effort to ensure that we have access. The purpose of schools is to provide access to those who don't. That's where we're failing. So in order to do that, in order to affect this change, here is what we should do. We should start by talking. We've already started. The pandemic, even a little bit before then, we already started talking about how education was not working, which is great. focusing on teachers, focusing on the classroom environment, focusing on so many different areas of education since. However, the STEM and arts aren't as focused on right now. Let's bring that back. Start talking about it. Start having conversations with those people around you. Educate on why this is important. Because although I never may step foot in a music room again as a teacher, I know that every single thing that I took from the years of me in music, the years of me as a music educator, and even now, post-formal music teaching, those are vital to who I am, how I teach, and how I think. Now, on top of talking about it, we need to communicate with those who have the power to affect change. Talking only goes so far. That would be writing to the people on the school board, people in the government, anyone who has the ability to affect positive educational change. And finally, supporting those who are working to advocate for that change. Thank you.